me. Back to basics. So when I started putting together this talk, I looked at the outline that we were given for the evolutionary wisdom. And then I looked at the introduction and the Science of Mind textbook. My topic today specifically is the way it works. And the way it works is through us. And from those two things, I got my title, Grounded in Oneness. And because oneness really is the way that God works through us. It is a fundamental element of this teaching called religious science. It's a basic teaching in everything else that we think and do and live in this science of mind thing is based upon oneness. Without this one element, without this one fundamental teaching, everything else that we teach, the law of attraction, the empowerment we teach, that we receive as a result of it, the healing, it all seems just a little bit shallow and loses a lot of its power if we don't begin in oneness. We can believe in the law of attraction all we want. We can feel empowered by the knowledge that our thoughts create our reality. We can ask for a treatment and even get a demonstration sometimes, a healing. But unless we begin with that essential fundamental element of oneness, we sometimes attract things we don't want. We exist more in a things are done to me kind of consciousness than a things are done as me or by me kind of consciousness. So Ernest Holmes says, if we believe that it will not work, it really works by appearing to not work. And I love that quote because it's kind of circular and it's kind of fun. And we have to start with a belief in oneness. We have to start believing that we are one with God and God is one with us. That is the end all and beginning and ending of this teaching. It's our stepping stone into everything else. And the principle of oneness allows us not only to fully realize and embody and enjoy all of our other teachings, but it also affects how we show up in the world and how we interact with others. So what is this thing called oneness? And we have a lot of material to draw from when we describe this fundamental element. Jesus said, "Who has seen me has seen the Father." He's describing oneness there. He's saying, if you're looking at me, you're looking at the Father. In Buddhism, it's said that oneness is not a goal, it's a reality of life. In other words, we don't strive to achieve oneness, we be it. We live it in all of our day-to-day actions. In Judaism, Rabbi Edward Feinstein described it like this. He said, the reason graven images are forbidden by the Torah is not that God has no image, but because God has but one image, that of every living, breathing human being. Therefore, you may not fashion an image of God in any medium other than that of your entire life. I looked at that quote and I just felt the peace that comes through me whenever I read or witness or become exposed to a bit of very profound wisdom like that. In 12-step tradition, it says, we found the great reality deep within us. And it goes on to say that it's only there that it can be found. And like with Ernest Holmes, whenever he referred to anything that was any other name for God other than God, like spirit, it's always capitalized. Great reality is capitalized. So with quotes like this and concepts like this, I don't know about you, but I cut right to the chase with it. I get it. I don't beat around the bush with it. I don't say, well, maybe. I go right into what for me is my truth. And here's the deal. I am God. There, I said it. Now, you guys can call me crazy, or you can think I'm being blasphemous by saying that, but that's the deal. That's what all of those things are telling us. That's the way it works in our life. It works by we becoming God. We can dare to say it. Maybe not in mixed company, but we can dare to say it. We really can. We really can. Yes, sometimes it's not received very well. It makes us feel uncomfortable. It does. Even folks in religious science, it makes us feel uncomfortable sometimes. And I wonder about that. And I think that sometimes we limit ourselves. Like that quote from Marianne Williamson about not wanting to be our greatest selves. I think there's a touch of that somewhere in there. And society as a whole likes to deny this concept of oneness. Ernest Holmes says, in spite of this teaching, why are people still weak, poor, and afraid? I think it's because they fail to fully embrace the concept of oneness. And there's some good reasons for it. It could be habit. We have generations of culture and religion telling us that God is a guy in the sky, separate from us, with opinions and desires for us. We've been told that our whole life. We've been indoctrinated. We've had generations of churches and religions telling us that God is separate from us. And the only way to get through God is through an intermediary, such as Jesus, Mother Mary. Those are all intermediaries. Our earliest ancestors worshiped the moon because they knew the sun was a far more powerful God. But in that power, they felt that it was unreachable. They felt that they couldn't get quite to it. They felt that they could worship something that was a little less powerful and be there and access it. And I think that's what we tend to do. We're afraid of that large and in charge power. We're afraid of that sun. And so we worship something a little lesser. We worship the moon, or we worship an intermediary. I don't necessarily, and I don't want to be misunderstood, I don't think there's anything wrong with worshiping intermediaries. I don't think there's any wrong with appreciating intermediaries. I don't think there's anything wrong with using tools as a pathway to God. It's all valuable. I'm just saying that in our realization, in our belief system, in our absolute knowingness, the more we can get to that point where we are willing and able and joyous and happy to say, I am God, the more we are empowered in our lives. Our teaching says, change your thinking and change your life. And we say, well, yeah, that's great. And we proceed to do just that. Yet sometimes we still beseech to an outside God. We even, if we have problems with the word God, sometimes we call it the universe. But we still beseech to it. I hope the universe gives me this. The universe will provide me with that. What is that except worship of an outer God? Again, nothing wrong with it, except I just think we're capable of so much more. So the invitation today is to change our thinking about oneness, to refuse to any longer deny our power, to stand in our greatness as living and breathing and unique manifestations of God. That's what Ernest Holmes calls us. He says every single one of us is a unique, living, breathing manifestation of God. And I like to add words like wonderful. Every one of us is a wonderful manifestation of God. Somewhere along the line, I began to hear these kinds of messages. And today I also know, feel, believe. And again, the invitation is for you to consider it. Not that you have to. It's just the way I believe I'm passing this message along to you. I believe that God would not be able to experience the physical except through us. That's how it experiences all of life's beauty and joy and wonder and glory through our eyes, through our perceptions, through us. And it experiences all that other stuff too. The invitation is to move ever closer and deeper into oneness than ever before. And then you get to stand back and observe the most incredible and wonderful things happening in your life. Because once we fully embrace this concept of oneness, we can get back into our innate intuition. There's a saying kind of going around a little bit. I love it. It says, I know things. We can get to that place where we know things. We don't know how we know them. We don't know why we know them. We just know them. We know things. That's our innate intuition in play there. We know things. We embrace fully the concept of oneness. And once we do so, we begin to realize our power. We begin to realize that our thoughts and our deeds affect others, and that theirs has the power to do so with us. So we begin to look at our thoughts and our deeds, and we begin to realize that if they're affecting others, maybe we might want to change some of how we are behaving or how we are thinking. And as we begin to change how we are behaving and how we are thinking, we begin to have an effect on the world, one person at a time. This is how we create a global vision. We begin to see what we're doing and how we're doing it. We begin to see our part in things, and we begin to take responsibility for them. And in that personal responsibility lies empowerment. And once we are empowered, our self-worth improves. Because how on earth could we deny the beauty of a unique and individual manifestation of God, which every one of us is? I look at all of your faces on this screen, and I see a whole bunch of unique and individual manifestations of God. All kinds of absolutely wonderful and unique and individual manifestations of God. I see it in every one of your faces. I'm looking, we got 28 people, but some of you are doubled up. So we have more than 30 people in this room. You're all unique and individual manifestations of God. Once we begin to embrace the concept of oneness, we begin to be able to accomplish things that most people say are impossible. I like to play with that one a lot. Once we fully embrace the concept of oneness, we begin to see what other people call miracles and what we know is just the natural outcome of our thoughts. This is the power of oneness. This is why all other teachings and values in this thing called science of mind are based in this one concept. This is why every year so many centers go back to basics and they go over those first 4 sections in the introduction of the textbook. And they talk about what it is and the way it works. This is why. This is important stuff. This is the deal right here. If you do nothing else, get oneness. So how do we embrace this thing called oneness? How do we be one? How do we fully know that we are one with God? How do we get to the point where we are able to comfortably say, I am God? So we have some spiritual practices that we teach here that work quite nicely. If you look at the if you look at any CSL website anywhere, you will see the words meditation and affirmative prayer, also known as treatment. And those are very powerful ways to affirm our oneness. I ask practitioners to affirm my oneness for me all the time. We can ask practitioners to do that for us if we're not completely there yet. We can do this consistently and persistently. We can meditate. And you know as well as I do that there's many different kinds of meditation. There's the one that everybody knows about where we sit in silence and focus our attention on one thing. And we keep bringing our attention back to the focus when it wavers. Not if it wavers, but when it wavers. That's a nice way to meditate. But there's also contemplation. I like to play a game called What If? What if I really believe that God and I were one? What if I really believed that I was God and God was me? And we can just play with that. Contemplate. What if? Play with some answers to those questions. See what comes up for us when we do that. I do something on a personal level to remind me of my oneness. I like to direct my attention to my surroundings and affirm that I am one with the sky, the trees, the birds, the breeze, and that all of that is one with me. I find myself automatically doing that every time I move into a treatment, into an affirmative prayer. I first direct my attention outward because it reminds me that God is everywhere present, that there is no place where it is not. And I look around at all of those things and I'm able to feel and know that the sky and the trees and the birds and the breeze are all one with me and I am one with them. I do this sometimes. I'll be doing a daily activity, dishes, gardening, whatever it is, doesn't matter. I'll just take a pause and remember who and what I am. And sometimes I purposely take those pauses. If I don't do it automatically, every once in a while, something will pop into my brain and go, oops, time to pause. Time to pause. It just takes a few seconds. If we affirm and repeat and know and have others affirm it so for us as well, we become more and more one with God. We become empowered. We begin to experience so-called miracles. All we have to do is become grounded in oneness and repeat. We meditate, we pray, we do our affirmations, we contemplate and repeat. And we keep doing that. And so I affirm for everyone right here and right now, in this place of absolute beautiful and glorious oneness, I know that everyone here in this service today, everyone here on this call today is one. I see in the faces of everyone on this call today the unique and individualized expression of God. I affirm that in that oneness, everyone is experiencing peace. Everyone is experiencing joy. Everyone is experiencing absolute glorious positivity in their life. I am affirming that as each and every manifestation of God that is on this call and in this service moves out into the world later on today, that we continue to experience this oneness and know it and feel it. And we move out into the world in that consciousness, that through me consciousness. And we spread those good tidings out into the world, thus replacing anguish and dismay and restlessness with peace, replacing sadness with joy, replacing hopelessness with hope. And so, with great gratitude for this time together, great gratitude for allowing me to visit with you today and speak with you today, I release and anchor, knowing that it is done. And so it is. And thank you very much.